尊敬の身には石が宿る。ましてやこの身には神の名が。人々を笑顔にしたという解放の戦士またの名を太陽の神ニカ。そしてもう一つの実がある。人の恐れ、人の迷い、魔王名のもとに人々の実現実モデルTot Musica.
As we all know, Luffy has eaten the Hito Hito no Mi model Nika, but what if he wasn't the only one? What if I told you that newly provided information by Oda himself reveals to us that Blackbeard's fruit is not a Logia, but rather another type of Zoan fruit, the opposite of the sun god, the devil? And what if I told you that this finally gives us an insight on what the genesis of all devil fruits really is? Strap in, because this is the grand story of the Devil King, Tot Musica. However, before that, at this current point in the manga, we are finally exploring the Egghead arc. Vegapunk's technological discoveries have allowed them to create things way beyond our understanding from far into the future, but in spite of the artificial food and clothing, mechanized animals, and ancient weapon-like machines, no invention of Vegapunk is superior than the ultimate web browser, Opera GX, the sponsor of this video. Opera GX boasts a vast array of futuristic features that solve many of the grievances we have with common web browsers, such as easy, simple to install animated wallpapers to decorate your backgrounds, to smart players that will pause any background streaming when starting a new video, to simultaneous video viewing as you are performing other tasks through a convenient external frame. Are you, just like me, a tab fiend who cannot help but open dozens of tabs at the same time? This has always frustrated me, as it often ends up slowing down my computer, but with Opera GX you can set a limit to how much RAM your computer consumes, allowing you to browse at your heart's content. Maybe you think that this is too much effort to go through? No worries, as not only is Opera GX free to download, but you can also import everything from your previous browser in a matter of seconds, in whichever way you best prefer. We truly live in the future. Go to the link in the description below to download Opera GX for free. Thank you so much to Opera GX for helping make this video possible. So, Film Red established a very major character, being the Devil King, Tot Musica. Now, just in case you haven't seen the movie yet, I'm not going to spoil you what exactly this character does in the movie or what purpose he serves. So while I will mention a couple mild details about what has been mentioned about Tot Musica in the movie, I'm not really going to spoil any of the events of the film itself. So you can still watch this video even if you haven't seen the movie. If anything, I want to focus on what the Devil King could serve as a role within the manga. That does bring into question on if the Devil King existed only for the sake of the film or will reappear in the story in some form, but there's too many things about it that line up with what we already know in the story about the devil, meaning that at the very least a lot of its existence will be very relevant to canon. Most of all is the fact that the Devil King is actually a character that was already mentioned in the story, so it's not even really a spoiler. So get comfortable and sit down, because I'm going to tell you an old tale surmised from all the characters and accounts in the series who has spoken about this subject. This is the tale of the origin of devil fruits, the Devil King. According to legend, there once existed a creature from ancient times known as the Devil of the Sea. It is said that all the devil fruits that now populate this world are the incarnations of this devil, with each fruit bearing one of the devil's own incarnations within it. When someone eats a fruit, this devil begins to reside within the user, granting them unbelievable power, but this curse comes at a price. The cost of not being allowed to set back into the sea from where, as the name would supposedly indicate, the devil once came from. Whenever a user would die, the devil within them would reincarnate within a fruit somewhere else in the world, and thus the cycle of the curse would continue. Rumor goes that when someone eats two devil fruits, then both of the devils residing within the body start fighting against each other, leading to the user to quite literally implode and vanish from existence. Now, we can't say how much of this mythology is true, but the exploding part is actually very real science, as it was confirmed that none other than Dr. Vegapunk had already demonstrated this through his experiments. Well, similarly, the Devil King has similar mythology swirling around it, to the point that the two might very well be the same mythological being. It is referred to as a devil that existed in ancient times, one that came to be born from the doubts and fears of men, from all the emotions of terror that reside in the hearts of people. As these negative emotions bore fear incarnate in the form of the Devil King, this ghoulish creature wreaked havoc upon the world, with its powers being so fearsome that it could wipe out an entire island overnight. Its strength was even likened to that of the ancient weapons, being considered a being so powerful that, just like the weapons, it was capable of bringing the destruction of the world. Long ago, the Devil King was sealed inside the music sheet Tot Musica through the powers of a devil fruit, sealed away on the island of Elygia, where the watchful guardians of music would reside over the island. Colossal golems were set to protect the music sheet in the Forbidden Archives so that none would ever get access to it. Its legacy persisted across the centuries, with its name being known across history. Some came to venerate it, some came to fear it. Over 500 years ago, a certain ancient giant by the name of Ors roamed the world. His strength was so incredibly fearsome that he came to be known as the Country Puller, pulling away islands all across the world to form a country of ruffians of his own that he could rule over like a tyrant, a legend that may be familiar to you if you start thinking about it. However, such a feat of strength earned him yet another nickname, named after a creature of ancient times, the Devil. So fearsome was Ors that some people legitimately believed him to be the devil incarnate once again roaming the seas. To embrace such a title, Ors decided to decorate himself with 3 skulls, the symbol of the devil, just like the Devil King Tot Musica once wore them. This is certainly not a coincidence, especially since, as you very well know, there is someone else who also uses these 3 skulls as its symbol, the symbol of the devil. However, imprisoning the music sheet of Tot Musica was not enough, because the Devil King residing within the music sheet had a will of its own, and so through its influence it escaped, having people bring it to the person that could one day unleash it. So can the same not be said about devil fruits? The devils, all the incarnations of their sovereign, the Devil King, are each trapped within the fruits, but still bear a will of their own. This will allows them to not only manifest in those that awaken, but even to impose their will upon others. Devil fruits can influence those around them to be led to others, and just as Tot Musica chose the one that would liberate it, there is one other devil fruit that chose someone who would bring its liberation. The devil known as the Warrior of Liberation, the Sun God Nika. The sun god Nika is a figure that existed in ancient times. Unlike the Devil King that was born out of fear and doubt, sun god came to be associated with joy and laughter, to the point some called him the Joy Boy, encompassing the idea of the sun, that all species and people in this world could one day live together under the same sun, connected together. Joy Boy embodied the connection that could be brought forth by joy and the laughter of people. For centuries, slaves prayed to Nika to one day deliver them liberation through laughter, believing that one day this warrior of liberation would appear once more and help liberate the world through the power of laughter, a power that we can see can be granted to people through the One Piece itself. And so, delivering the One Piece across the world, this new Joy Boy could one day truly connect it together and bring liberation to all. When the world would set its eyes on the One Piece, everyone would laugh. However, in some form, Nika itself came to become trapped within a devil fruit as well. Since it's classified as a mythological fruit, it's very possible that Nika might have never really existed to begin with. Or rather, maybe that only the real-life figure of a man who was called Joy Boy really existed, rather than the actual god with superhuman powers. In fact, it's debatable whether the Devil King really ever existed too, since many debated that the story of the devils is just a rumor compared to the scientific research that the likes of Vegapunk have been able to pioneer. We've seen that devil fruits can be replicated through the application of the bloodline elements, so who is to say that devil fruits were not created by men and that the myth was established after, when their origin became legend? Or what if it's the opposite and these figures really did exist? Well, we cannot depart myths from facts without proper historical evidence. The past is far too lost in the past, but what we have in the present might give us the necessary clues to piece this puzzle together. And really, it's the fact with how both the figures of Nika and Tot Musica are essentially two sides of the same coin. Particularly what it's most fascinating of all is the fact that both of these devils are able to move through influencing those around them. What some would call the most dangerous power in the world, that of being able to draw in all those around you to follow your will. Tot Musica used its will to bring itself to the one who would liberate it, whereas the Nika fruit used its will to continuously escape the grasp of the world government. When the government finally seized control of it, it used its influence to draw in the red-haired pirates, swiping it away once more. But could it perhaps too have chosen to draw a young Monkey D. Luffy to itself, because it saw in the boy the ability to change the world? Did the devil fruit perhaps really choose Luffy out of its own will? And can the same not be said for the exact parallel opposite? Because when Marshall D. Teach explained how he had attained the Yami Yami no Mi, he had commented that the fruit had chosen him. Could it be that the Yami Yami no Mi drew itself close to Blackbeard because it knew he was the only one who could fulfill its ambition? Blackbeard even claimed that the fruit ending up in his hands was a matter of fate, believing that it was destined that the fruit would choose him and end up in his hands. So in the end, what if Blackbeard's fruit is not just a common fruit? What if it's not just a powerful Logia, but perhaps one of the most important fruits ever created? What if it's not the Yami Yami no Mi, but the Hito Hito no Mi mythical type model, Devil King? Now, I know, ever since the Hito Hito no Mi model Nika was first revealed, literally everyone and their moms has been trying to speculate if there was other seemingly misleading fruits, despite there being not much evidence to it. What if Robin has the Hito Hito no Mi model Durga? What if Shiryu has the Hito Hito no Mi model John Cena? Now, okay, I get it. It's easy to get caught up in the hype of such a reveal, but trust me, this is one case where I think it's actually justified that there could be a second fruit with a false name. I mean, this is Blackbeard after all, the complete opposite to Luffy, and with a fruit that arguably has as much importance as the Nika fruit itself. More than anything, if this fruit really was the incarnation of the Devil King, the origin of all devil fruits, then there would be a very real reason why the government would want to censor its name, just like the Nika fruit. And once you start thinking about it, it all makes sense, a lot of sense. I mean, if the ability of the so-called Yami Yami no Mi chose Blackbeard like he claimed, how could it have done so if it wasn't a Zoan fruit, one with a will of its own? A Logia would not be able to choose and draw itself to Blackbeard. Or actually, here's a much simpler and better way to call this out. Why is it that Blackbeard says that despite this theoretically being a Logia, he cannot avoid the attacks of others, he cannot transform into his elements, and will always be hit by attacks, unlike every other Logia user ever? Why is it? Well, of course, because it isn't a Logia, and that's why Blackbeard can transform into darkness, that's why he cannot avoid attacks, and why he can be hit by everyone. I mean, in the end, has it never struck out to you how bizarre and unusual is the fact that Blackbeard's Devil Fruit can negate other Devil Fruits? Beyond not having the properties of a Logia as it's supposed to, it's a Devil Fruit that can negate other abilities. Or as Blackbeard puts it, he can draw in towards himself the devils inside other people. The incarnations, the power of the devil found within each of the Devil Fruits, residing within each of the users, are drawn back to its point of origin, its genesis, the Devil King. I always found it very weird that the move that Blackbeard uses to draw in Devil Fruit users is called Kuro Uzu, or as its kanji literally means in Japanese, black water. Blackbeard is able to generate water, quite literally, which of course ends up negating the ability of Devil Fruit users. Many people have been speculating for years if we'll ever see a water Devil Fruit user in the series, but we technically already have it. This is going more into speculation, but what if this also ties into the reason why Blackbeard can eat multiple Devil Fruits? Maybe his ability to be able to draw in other fruits gives him the power to host more than one devil, as the devils he steals are able to fuse back into the original Devil King. Marco did, however, say that this is also an aspect that has more to do with his strange body, implicitly his ability to sleep, so maybe this could be a separate mystery, but it could still perhaps tie with all of this in some form or another. there. Regardless, the Yami Yami no Mi is in reality the Devil King, the point of origin of all devil fruits, the original incarnation of all fruits, to which the other incarnations are all drawn back to, because that's where they originated from, their genesis. It just makes sense. This could explain why Oda decided to use Tot Musica as a character from Film Red, since it won't appear in its original ancient form in the main story, but rather the myth of the devil will be used to form the mythos of Blackbeard's fruit, and thus play its role in the story that way. Blackbeard dreamed of becoming the devil, so in order to represent it, after eating the fruit, when he formed his crew he chose as his symbol, and Jolly Roger, the 3 skulls, the symbol of the Devil King, just like the Devil Oars once did, inspired by the skulls the Devil King had adorned many years ago. Just like Luffy has eaten the Hito Hito no Mi model Nika, a fruit that chose him, Blackbeard has eaten the Hito Hito no Mi model Devil King, which also chose him. 2 opposing forces of good and evil, light and darkness, the sun and the black hole, 2 completely opposite sides of the same coin that will never be able to agree with each other. But what is perhaps more interesting of all when it comes to this duality between Nika and Tot Musica is how both of these devils are so closely associated to the concept of music. On one hand, you have Tot Musica, which is literally represented through a song, an absolute banger composed by Hiroyuki Sawano, by the way, that represents all the emotions that the Devil King incarnates. Fear, doubt, anger, a psychedelic song that screams out in horror as it seeks to swallow all around it. The name Tot Musica can be derived from German, as Tot means death, literally making the song death musing, the song with the power to kill all in the world, bringing them back to the devil. However, as the complete opposite end, you have a different type of music. The drums of liberation, a joyous merry beat that makes you laugh and cheer with joy. But what exactly could this beat be like if we've only read it in the manga? Well, the Japanese sound effect reads as don do do do, don do do do. Does that sound familiar? Because it's the same exact rhythm as yo ho ho ho, yo ho ho ho. The rhythm of the drums of liberation is Binks' sake, more specifically, the rhythm of laughter, of being able to laugh yo ho 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 with all the joy in your heart, just like Nika does. That's what the drums of liberation are. The drums encompass nothing more than the rhythm of Binks' sake, which is a song with the power to connect and conjoin people together through parties, festivities, and sharing joy and laughter with each other. And so one day both of these forces will come head to head with each other, where both of these opposites will clash for the fate of the world. Tot Musica has the power to sink the world into darkness, to bring death and despair to all its lust for power, freedom only for itself. But in the other hand, Nika, or rather Binks, seeks to deliver its freedom to others. And hey, that's not me saying it, because it's literally said like that line by line in the film. Music like Tot Musica is able to destroy the world, but music also has the power to deliver joy to the entire world. As Shanks put it, there is no equality or freedom in this world, at least not yet, but just like he says, music is what has the power to change that, to bring liberation to all in the world through the sound of the drums of liberation, the sound of laughter, and by doing that making everyone in the world laugh through the power of the greatest song, the greatest story ever written, the laugh tale known as the One Piece, Binks' sake.